Timeline of major discoveries and developments in science.
Humankind has always been inquisitive, needing to understand why things behave in a certain way and trying to link observation with prediction.
For example, since prehistoric times, we have observed the heavens and tried to make sense of the seasonal changes and the position of the sun, moon, and stars. In about 4000 BC, the Mesopotamians tried to explain their observations by suggesting that the Earth was at the center of this universe, and that the other heavenly bodies move around it. Humans have always been interested in the nature and origins of this universe. Galileo's trial. Held in Italy in the 17th century, this controversial trial was a result of a 70 years battle between the Roman Catholic Church and the theory of heliocentrism. On one side stood one of the most famous scientists of all time, on the other the most powerful monotheistic organization in Europe, which was capable of dictating social behavior and controlled both law and political order. These two giants' debate had its core in Copernicus' affirmation that the Earth and the other planets known at the time revolved around the Sun, with the Sun sitting still near the center of the universe. Leibniz-Newton's differential and integral calculus.
Although Newton inhabits every student's nightmares at some point in their lives, he can be seen as the ultimate Christmas present to humanity.
Born and raised in England's dark times, he shed a light on the void left by Galileo's death. Unfortunately, he sometimes shines so brightly that ends up leaving Leibniz in the shadows. In an age where information is traveled by horses, the conflict between these two major mathematicians to determine who invented the study of change, mostly known as differential and integral calculus, is nowhere relevant today compared to the impact their formulation had in every area of science. Einstein and the Manhattan Project.
In Mary Shelley's horror success, Dr. Victor Frankenstein used unorthodox science to create an abnormal creature, proving not all the best intentions result in goodness.
Related, what Einstein couldn't predict at the beginning of the 20th century was that his most known equation and the works of several respected physicists, both in regards to nuclear fission and fusion, would be forever associated with the world disaster. Watson, Crick's, and Franklin's DNA structure. Last year, after 2 decades of the first successful cloning experiment, Swedish developmental biologist Fredrik Lanner started the vast task of editing human embryos' DNA. If tracing his footsteps a long way in the past, one will find Swiss chemist Friedrich Miescher standing at the first line 147 years ago. The first documented person to identify what he called nuclein inside the nuclei of human white blood cells, Miescher probably had no idea where his discoveries would lead humanity. Higgs boson in the age of internet. For many centuries, observation preceded theorization, and people tried to understand how nature works through their biological senses and minds. Another aspect presented in science history is the creation of artifacts to seek confirmation and replication of such questionings. In particle physics, which has it roughly started in ancient Greece, what we saw through time was a role reversal.
Scientific discoveries timeline.
September 8, 1543. The heliocentric model. Nicholas Copernicus was an astronomer who proposed a heliocentric system, that the planets orbit around the Sun, that Earth is a planet which, besides orbiting the Sun annually, also turns once daily on its own axis, and that very slow changes in the direction of this axis account for the precession of the equinoxes. September 8, 1600s. Earth's magnetic field. William Gilbert discovered the Earth's magnetic field. He proposed that the Earth acts like a big magnet whose field aligns the small magnet used as a compass needle. September 8, 1609. The moon is observed. Galileo observes the moon. He discovered the moon had mountains, valleys, and plains like the Earth. He called the dark regions of the moon Maria, the Latin word for seas. September 8, 1637. The scientific method René Descartes discovered. The scientific method was used even in ancient times, but it was first documented by England's Sir Francis Bacon by the year 1561 to 1626. The scientific method can be applied to almost all fields of study as a logical, rational, problem-solving method. September 8, 1643. The mercury barometer. The mercury barometer is the oldest type of barometer invented by the Italian physicist Evangelista Torricelli. in 1643. Torricelli conducted his first barometric experiments using a tube of water. September 8, 1656. Saturn rings and a moon discovered. Using a telescope he made, Huygens first identified Saturn's rings and one of the Saturn's moons. Galileo Galilei was the first to see Saturn's rings in 1610, although from his telescope the rings looked more like handles of arms. September 8, 1666. Law of Gravity. Isaac Newton changed the way we understand the universe. Revered in his own lifetime, he discovered the laws of gravity and motion and invented calculus.
Microscopic organism. The existence of microscopic organism was discovered during the period of 1665 to 1683 by the two fellows of the Royal Society, Robert Hooke and Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. Speed of light. It was discovered in September 8, 1676. The Danish astronomer Ole Romer became the first person to measure the speed of light. Romer measured the speed of light by timing eclipse of Jupiter's moon Io. The Leyden jar. In 1745, a cheap and convenient source of electric spark was invented by Peter van Maschenbroek. He is a physics and mathematician in Leiden, Netherlands. Later called the Leyden jar, it was the first device that could store a large amount of electric charge. Uranus. Uranus was discovered in September 8, 1781 by William Herschel. While he was measuring the direction and brightness of stars, Herschel found a fuzzy spot that moved among the stars. This was Uranus, the first planet that was not known to the ancients. The electric battery was discovered on September 8, 1800. The Italian physicist Alessandro Volta is generally credited with having developed the first operable battery, following up on the earlier work of his compatriot Luigi Galvani. Volta performed a series of experiments on electrochemical phenomena during the 1790s. Anesthesia. On October 16, 1846, Boston dentist William Watson used sulfuric ether to anesthetize a man who needed surgery to remove a vascular tumor from his neck. According to the painful story behind the modern anesthesia by Dr. Howard Markel on PBS.org, Surgeon Just Warren performed the procedure on patient Glenn Abbott. The periodic table. In 1869, Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev created the framework that became the modern periodic table, leaving gaps for elements that were yet to be discovered. While arranging the elements according to their atomic weight, if he found that they did not fit into the group, he would rearrange them.
September 8, 1895 X-rays. Wilhelm Röntgen, professor of physics in Würzburg, Bavaria, discovered X-rays in 1895 accidentally while testing whether cathode rays could pass through glass. His cathode tube was covered in heavy black paper, so he was surprised when the incandescent green light nevertheless escaped the projected onto a nearby fluorescent screen. Through experimentation, he found that the mysterious light would pass through most substances but leave shadows of solid objects. Because he did not know what rays were, he called them X, meaning unknown rays. September 8, 1913, atomic number, known as Moseley's law. This fundamental discovery concerning atomic numbers was milestone in advancing the knowledge of the atom. In 1914, Moseley published a paper in which concluded that the atomic number is number of positive charges in the atomic nucleus. Big Bang. September 8, 1927. Belgian priest named George Lemaitre first suggested the Big Bang theory is in 1920s, when he theorized that the universe began from a single primordial atom. September 8, 1943, the chromosome. German scientists Sheldon, Virchow, and Bocci were among the first scientists who recognized the structures now familiar as chromosomes. In a series of experiments beginning in the mid-1880s, Theodore Bovary gave definitive contribution to elucidating the chromosome or the vector of heredity, with two notions that became known as chromosome continuity and chromosome individuality. July 20, 1969, men land on the moon. July 20, 1969, American astronaut Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin became the first humans ever to land in the moon. About 6.5 hours later, Armstrong became the first person to walk on the moon. May 8, 1990, Hubble Space Telescope. The telescope was named after American astronomer Edwin Hubble, born in 1899. Hubble discovered that many objects previously thought to be clouds of dust and gas and classified as nebula were actually galaxies beyond the Milky Way. September 8, 1997, a sheep is cloned. On July 5, 1996, Dolly the sheep, the first mammal to have been successfully cloned from an adult cell inborn at the Roslin Institute of Scotland, originally codenamed 6LL3. The cloned lamb was named after a singer-actress Dolly Parton.